Will Wade introduced again as LSU's head coach. We've got everything you need to hear. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Will Wade reintroduced as LSU's head men's basketball coach. I was there, listened to the entire thing. A day that was more pep rally than press conference, as these things are wont to be from time to time. But there were a few morsels to pull away. And also, on my radio show, Heath Schroyer, remember the McNeese AD who came over to LSU in the sort of basketball administrative role, Heath came and visited with me for half an hour. And so there were two things he said that sort of complemented what Will said. You're going to hear that in just a smidge as well. So thanks for hanging out with us here. But if you're an everydayer and you were here over the past couple of weeks as all the Will Wade rumblings became noise, became actuality, told you two things, two reasons why Will Wade would leave NC State to come back to LSU. Number one, alignment. And I even told you that word. He was going to use that word a ton in his press conference. And I'm talking about from Governor Jeff Landry to board president Lee Mallett, to university system president Dr. Wade Rousse, to Heath Schroyer coming over from McNeese. That alignment was key. The other was the LSU fans, the people that supported him during his most trying times as basketball coach and professionally. Well, Will Wade wasted virtually no time whatsoever at his introductory press conference discussing those very things. And let's go in order. Let's start with that alignment. Now, remember, I told you, top down, Jeff Landry, Lee Mallett, Wade Rousse, Heath Schroyer. Funny how Will Wade mentioned them.
There's just a ton of folks involved to make this happen. I want to, first off, thank our governor, Jeff Landry. I want to thank our wonderful LSU board, many of who are here today, and our great chairman, Lee Mallett. I want to thank Dr. Rousse, who I've worked with before. We're going to work well together again, get that alignment. We've got Heath Schroyer here, same chain of command as Doc likes to say, and certainly our wonderful athletic administration and everybody involved in the athletic administration. Their belief in me and the belief in me that this is the right time to come home will never be forgotten. And make no mistake, this is home. I wasn't born in Louisiana, but Louisiana's home for me, and me and my family. And so,
tugging at the heartstrings, man, smart guy. But you know what? I believe him. And if you've lived in Louisiana, if you're from Louisiana, if you went to school in Louisiana, you understand that component of it. Like, it's the thing we talk about all the time about this state. Y'all, we are different. We are, and we know it. I know this. I see all of the impressions. There's so many of you watching right now who are Ole Miss fans from when Lane Kiffin left Ole Miss to come to LSU, NC State fans who now have followed this show since Will Wade jumped, and this isn't going to make sense to you. And I understand that. This is a weird place. It is different. Lane Kiffin coined the just different thing, and it's not a funny slogan. It's true, even with relation to the rest of the Gulf South. Look, you can drop somebody randomly, boom, in parts of rural Mississippi or rural Kentucky or rural Alabama or rural Georgia or the panhandle of Florida, and a lot of it looks, feels, sounds, acts exactly the same. Now, look, every state has its own culture. I don't mean to be dismissive of that, but there's so much of it that feels the same. When you get into Louisiana, where we spell things differently, we talk differently, we eat weird things, all of it, like, you know where you are. And we take a lot of pride in that in this state. And some people get it and some people don't. And if you don't, it's probably not going to go great for you here. But if you do and you embrace it, the people here will love you forever. And it doesn't happen for everybody. It didn't happen for Brian Kelly. It clearly happened for Will Wade when he was here at LSU and when he was at McNeese. And for him and his wife Lauren and their daughter Caroline, that they set that hook, man. And you heard him say it. Like, this is another interesting soundbite that sort of explains. It's 14 seconds, but this tells you the story.
I know people have been talking about us a little bit. I understand I'm not for everybody. And we understand also that LSU isn't for everybody. But one thing we both understand is I'm for LSU and LSU's for me. And make no mistake about that.
So for Will Wade, you wonder why he came back. All the past 2, 3, whatever it's been, weeks, there's 2 reasons. Number one is the alignment he just talked about, because in order to have success, you have to have the resources. Well, how do you get the resources? Well, from the governor to the board chairman to the president of the university, athletic administration, all those people are pulling in the same direction for the resources in this state for a common goal. Yeah, you can achieve great things. And number 2 is the people. And, you know, I when Will Wade finished his press conference on Monday at the Maravich Center, the first thing he did is he left the dais and walked over to the student section, the students that were there. And he was high-fiving them and taking pictures and all that stuff. And Will Wade's, I was one of the last people that left the PMAC on Monday. And Will Wade must have stayed for an hour, hugging, embracing, talking to, greeting everyone, from board members to boosters to fans to people he's known here from the time he showed up in 2017. And it was the way I describe it is, imagine your best friend from college or high school, and life goes on and your paths diverge and you don't see each other every day or talk every day. But 5 years down the line, you know, you end up in the same place, you see each other, and your reaction is big, wide-eyed, and you're going to give this big embrace to that person. You're going to hug long, because it doesn't matter how long you've been apart. You have a shared life experience that you can't let go of, no matter where your life takes you. Will Wade had that experience 100 times on Monday at the PMAC. And it explains why he came back. I don't expect, if you're an NC State fan and you found the show today, I don't expect you to understand the LSU connection, but that part of it, the human part of it, maybe that makes sense to you. And you may not like Will Wade and how he left, and I get that. But the human element of that, of someone who loves a place and the people and embraces it and has a chance to go back to them, that component of it on a human level has to make sense at least a little bit. And that's what's rooted in this, because on a basketball level, it doesn't make sense. I've said this a million times. NC State is a better basketball job than LSU. That is objectively true. They've won a national title. They care. Basketball ranks ahead of football in their hierarchy. That'll never be the case at LSU, ever. Will Wade could win 100 national championships in a row. People here will never love that basketball program the way they do the football program. But they embrace Will Wade and his family, and that's why Will Wade is back. Now, Will Wade also, of course, never one to shy away from humor and jabs, had this to say.
You know, we're coming back to make history. We're going to make history one way or the other. We're coming back, like Dr. Rousse said, to try to hang a banner, win a national championship, or I'm going to be the first coach fired from the same school twice. But one way or another, we're going to make history.
And the crowd was raucous, and they loved every bit of it. Now, he was also asked, Will was, about the perception, right? The way he left NC State and him being sort of painted as a villain. And it's something that at this point in his life, Will Wade clearly just doesn't care.
I long ago quit worrying about my perception. So that part doesn't bother me too much. Look, here's what I'm going to say. I'd like to focus more on what's going on at LSU. NC State was great to me. I think some of the things have been mischaracterized on how I left, but I'm not going to get into I learned long ago, I'm not going to get into a back and forth on all of that. The people who need to know, And look, everybody has to, when there's a situation like this, everybody has to cover has to cover. Let's put it that way. And so I'm not, I'm at peace with how I left. I'm at peace with what we did. And, look, I mean, they're pretty mad for a coach they didn't think was very good. So,
and he had to get the jab in at the end. A friend of mine who is a very, very successful business person. I won't tell you his name. If I did, you would know exactly who it was. But this person told me one time that the easiest decisions in life are the best decisions. And I think this was an easy decision for Will Wade. And that may not sit well with NC State folks or anybody else nationally, but it sits well with Will and Lauren Wade and Caroline and Dr. Wade Rousse and Lee Mallett and Governor Jeff Landry and everybody else involved. And for that, it was the best decision for them. And we'll see if it's the best decision for LSU. Only time will tell, because Will Wade has to win and win big in order to make that decision justified. So how does he do that? Well, he's going to need budget and a staff. Those are two things I asked Will about on Monday at his press conference. You'll hear his answers next. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for, skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And the stat that says it all, in the minute since we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed. That's according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked on LSU by saying you heard about Indeed on Locked on LSU. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. So Will Wade obviously has a heavy lift. He's inheriting a program that is 6-30 over the last 2 years in conference play. But he has eyes on a quick turnaround and rebuild. Now, part of Will Wade coming back to LSU is Heath Schroyer coming with him. Now, if you're not familiar, we've talked about this, but Heath Schroyer was the AD at McNeese while Will was there. Now, prior to working at McNeese, and this is the piece people may not be aware of, Heath Schroyer spent 25 years as a Division I college basketball coach all over the country. He ended up as the head coach at McNeese, where he ultimately resigned as head coach in 2020 to become the AD at McNeese. So he has been a college basketball coach for a quarter century and also an athletic director. Now, and he was the AD at McNeese when Will Wade was the head coach there. And Heath Schroyer's sort of superpower is his ability to communicate. I mean, he was a head coach. As a head coach, you have to be able to recruit and communicate with athletes. You have to know the game and talk to boosters and all that sort of stuff. And that served him exceptionally well as an administrator at McNeese, where most recently the biggest sort of most notoriety he gained was doing $11 million in 1 year in corporate naming rights sponsorships. In McNeese's history, the biggest year they ever had was $1 million. I mean, that's an 11x. That's massive. It's a guy who knows what he's doing, how to raise money, how to engage donors, how to engage sponsors, and all of that sort of stuff. So Heath Schroyer has come over as LSU's direct report in basketball for Will Wade. Will Wade's direct report to the administration will be Heath Schroyer, whose job is going to be raise money for basketball. Had a chance to talk to Verge Osbury after the press conference, LSU's AD. He said, look, Heath is going to raise money for basketball. Zach Greenwell is going to raise money for baseball and some other sports. And Clay Harris is going to raise money for football. Like, that's their primary roles as far as raising funds in those sports. So Heath Schroyer's role is, Will needs resources? Okay, go get them. So what type of resources is Will Wade going to need? Now, I gave you all of that preface and preamble because I asked Will Wade two questions at his press conference. One was about resources. What does he need? Two was about his staff. We'll get to the staff in a second, but here was Will Wade's answer when I asked him, hey, number one, because there have been reports of 12 to 15 million in guaranteed roster budget. On Pete Nakos at On3 was one that reported that. I asked Will Wade point blank, have you talked to LSU's admins about a specific roster budget? And what do you need to be able to win at the highest level?
Look, we've had some conversations. I'm not going to share that, but I mean, this is LSU and Heath, Verge, Heath, everybody, Dr. Rousse, everybody. You know, look, Coach, go build a roster that'll help us compete. We've never put a number on it. We've put a roster that's going to help us win and help us compete, and whatever that number is. I mean, look, the first year it is going to be a little bit higher. The portals, I mean, we're going to have to go get a bunch of new players, and the new players and the good players cost. They ain't cheap. And so, look, the first year it will be high, but once you get them in and you can retain them and you get them, retaining guys is a lot easier than going to get them. So the first year, yeah, there may be some sticker shock, but we've got a good plan, and there hasn't been a number put to it. It's not like this is what you're going to spend. It's spend till you feel like you have a good enough team to compete in the SEC. And at the end of the day, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to put together a roster that everybody in this arena and everybody who's watching, and every person across this state will be very, very excited about, and that can compete, in the top part of the SEC.
So I had a chance to have Heath Schroyer on my radio show after the press conference. We spent a good half hour together, and we covered a lot of ground, but I want to piggyback what Will said with Heath's answer about these same questions. Here was Heath talking about the budget and what you need to be. Remember, this guy's been an AD and 25 years as a Division I college basketball coach.
I mean, Coach talked about it. I mean, I think that you have to be, in the middle to, or upper in the SEC, from a budget standpoint. But I think sometimes this gets lost, right? You can have as much money as you want, but you still have to evaluate, and you still have to be able to get them. Like, the money is money, right? They're going to throw all that. But at the end of the day, you still have to evaluate talent. You have to be able to have a system and have a culture and have a group of guys buy into something bigger than themselves. You have to have support and alignment with your administration. All those things have to be in place. And, I mean, I don't think that, look, if it was all about money, and I'm a huge Yankee fan, don't shoot me.
No, same.
But like,
he's a Red Sox fan.
Right.
He's a fake Red Sox fan.
But like, if it all was about money, then the New York Yankees would have won World Series every year, right?
I know, dog. The Dodgers are pushing a billy on their payroll.
That's true, too. That's true, too. That's true. But you know what I'm saying? Like, yes, you still have to be, so do you have to be in the ballpark? Yeah. I mean, you can't, you can't be dead last, and, but do you have to be first? I don't think you have to. I think it really comes down to evaluating talent and having a system of play that is conducive to winning, that, that's probably a little bit different. Like Coach talked about, you look at prime example is Texas A&M with buckyball, right? Mm-hmm. They're just different. So being able to figure all that out is just as important to me as just being able to completely just throw money at the quote unquote problem.
So that gives you some perspective. Despite the reports of $12 to $15 million, it's pretty clear there is no stated budget, something we've talked about here, but there's an awareness that they're going to need money. Heath Schroyer's job is find that money. Will Wade's job is evaluate the talent to get the right people on this roster. Now, what about the people recruiting and coaching the people on the roster, Will Wade's staff? There have been reports there. You'll hear both Will Wade and Heath Schroyer discuss that as we continue. It's Locked on LSU, your team every day. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, or cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. Now, mine, as I tell you every day, is extra strength grape, but find yours. And maybe it is cotton candy, a delicious swirl of sugary clouds, a fruity twist, a hint of vanilla, the sweet side of tasty caffeine. Throwback flavor with a boost. Its light, airy candy profile has that nostalgic carnival-style taste. Pure sweetness from start to finish. Sweet tooth fix without any sugar guilt. No sugar, yes. 5-hour energy shots gives you that boost with zero sugar, and 5-hour energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovations planned. Find your new favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. That's 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon. And we're brought to you by FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake. Trust isn't given, it's earned. Winning a championship is hard, and defending one is even harder. LSU baseball knows what it takes: discipline, teamwork, and trust. FMOL Health, Our Lady of the Lake, is LSU's championship health partner, providing Louisiana's best medical team to care for our state's best athletes. From injury prevention to recovery, strength to performance, the Lake helps keep Tigers ready to compete every game, every series, every postseason run. And that same level of championship care is here for you too. Whether it's sports medicine, heart care, pediatrics, or help getting back to your everyday routine, Our Lady of the Lake cares for everyday champions across Louisiana. Trust the team that cares for the team you love. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU, together we roar. Visit olrmc.com/LSU. So we talked about roster budget. What about staff? Here was Will Wade about the reports about his staff.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have look, staffs have gotten so big now. We're not going to have the biggest staff in the world. I want to have 100 people run around and walking on top of each other. But we're going to have our shell recruiting staff in place here in the next, hopefully by the first of next week. I would think we'll have 2 to 3 assistants, and then we're going to leave a couple spots open and work through that as we move forward. But we'll have 2 or 3 folks in here. We'll run a tight recruiting. Look, the recruiting. I'm not a guy. I've done this at other places. Like in college, it's a little different in the NBA. Like I'm the head coach and the general manager. Like there's no you don't have to have all this other stuff. Like the decisions on the roster are ultimately going to come down to me. Now I'll get input from everybody else, but it's going to be me. I mean that's my job as a head coach. They're not paying me all that money to have other people make decisions on things. And so I think that I'm going to have a heavy hand in what we're doing and deciding who we take and what we do. But we'll have 2 or 3 assistants in here to help me, and then 6 weeks after that we'll pick up the rest of the guys. So, but we're not in any rush on that. I mean, one thing Verge talked about. I mean, look, everybody wants to be at LSU. We've got. I mean, my phone had 182 text messages the other day just on staff stuff, people wanting to join the staff. So, I mean, look, this is an unbelievable brand and a place that everybody wants to be. And so we'll have no shortage of putting together the right staff.
There were two names that have been mentioned. Former LSU head coach Johnny Jones potentially joining staff as an assistant, and former Mississippi State head coach Rick Stansbury joining as general manager. Well, you heard Will Wade say there that he's not hiring a general manager. He's the GM. Well, I asked Heath if he could confirm both of those two reports.
No, none of that's finalized. And you know, Coach mentioned it today. We're not going to, I mean, he's not going to have a GM. He is the GM.
Okay, I was going to ask that as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there will not be a general manager position on staff
as of right now. That's, I mean, I'm just going to go with what Coach talked about today, and in the fact that he wants to be the final say in his roster, which I love. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still got to coach them and make those decisions, and all that. I mean, really, honestly, the next 72 hours is going to be a real work in progress, and and again, in my role is the same thing as when I was the AD at McNeese, is to be there as a resource, to be there to help him. But ultimately, it's his decision and his staff, and I just want him to be able to have the staff around him, because I know, when you're head coach or you're an AD, having people around you that can compliment you, it's everything.
Undeniably a busy time ahead. Monday was much fanfare. As I said, it was more pep rally than press conference. As Will Wade was celebrated, there was the drum line. Mike the Tiger was dressed up as a general. There were flames and smoke and cheering, adoring fans. But the work begins now. Building a roster, building a staff, and building toward a championship. That is the task for Will Wade, and we'll be here for it every step of the way on Locked on LSU. So please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review, YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video, and let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day.